And police are now updating the media on this case. Let's listen in live.
Today are Chief of Police Eric Stubbs, the Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson, and Superintendent Jamie Dunlop. Also in attendance with us today, également présent aujourd'hui, est Barrhaven Councillors Wilson Lowe and David Hill, and City of Ottawa Manager Wendy Stephenson. For everyone's awareness, we are broadcasting this live on YouTube as well. We will now begin with Chief Eric Stubbs.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon. This afternoon, we will be providing an update on a tragic act of violence in Barrhaven that has left 6 people deceased, including 4 young children, as well as 1 injured male. Before I continue, I want to acknowledge that this has been a very difficult, complex, and active investigation. Some of the details we will share today are disturbing. Here's what we can tell you. At about 10:52 yesterday evening, the Ottawa Police Service received 2 911 calls from the Barrhaven Drive area reporting a suspicious incident where a male was yelling and asking people to call 911. Our team was immediately dispatched, and the first officer arrived on scene minutes later. As multiple units began to arrive, officers identified a suspect who was quickly arrested without incident. Paramedics were also called and were arriving. Officers entered the home to check on the safety of those inside, and that is where they began to discover the 6 victims, the youngest of which is less than 3 months old. The family are newcomers to Canada and are originally from Sri Lanka. We have been working to advise the families of the deceased, many of whom are overseas. The father and husband of the victims was found at the scene and was injured. He was taken to hospital where he is in serious but stable condition. The deceased are 35-year-old Darshani Bombar Anaike Ekanaike. She is the mother of the children. Their 7-year-old son, Anuka Wikrama Singh. Their 4-year-old daughter, Ashwini. Their 2-year-old daughter, Rinayana. And their 2.5-month-old daughter, Kelly. Also found deceased is 40-year-old Americone Gamini Americone, who is an acquaintance of the family who has been living at the home. He recently arrived in Canada. The investigation has found that an edged weapon was used to cause the deaths and injuries. To be clear, this was a mass killing, not a mass shooting. We have arrested and charged a 19-year-old male, Frank D'Souza, with 6 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. The accused is a Sri Lankan national who is believed to have been in Canada as a student. I'll emphasize, he is the only suspect. We know there are a lot of questions about why this tragedy occurred. This is the focus of our homicide unit as they diligently investigate this tragic crime. Our investigators and forensic teams are working very hard to determine all of the facts and ensure justice is done. But that also means we must maintain the integrity of the investigation for court. I want to emphasize, this was a senseless act of violence perpetrated on purely innocent people. I know our whole community is shocked and mourning this event. I want to offer my condolences to the loved ones of all the victims for this unimaginable loss. We are offering supports, and we know the community is mobilizing. We have reached out to the community leaders, their temple, and the Sri Lankan High Commission. We will ensure that we maintain that communication to assist their community. Of note, 2 of the children attended local schools, and we have also reached out to the school board. We ask that anyone needing support, please reach out to the Distress Center, available 24/7 at 613-238-3311. This one will undoubtedly weigh on the hearts of everyone for a long time. A vigil has been established at the Palmdale Park at the corner of Palmdale Drive and Rodeo Drive in memory of the victims. We ask that the public avoid the area of the crime scene as police continue to investigate. I am also mindful of the impact this investigation can have on our members and other emergency responders. We are also offering supports in critical incident debriefs to all affected members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I will now introduce Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson et maintenant le chef adjointe Trish Ferguson.
Bonjour et bienvenue. Cet après-midi, nous allons vous mettre à jour sur un tragique acte de violence à Barrhaven.
This afternoon, we will update you on a tragic with
Avant de
4
poursuivre, je tiens
young
à souligner
victims
qu'il
among
s'agit d'une enquête
other
très
victims.
difficile,
It's a very
complexe
difficult
et active.
investigation,
Certains des
active
détails
and
dont nous allons vous faire part
certain
aujourd'hui sont
that we will
dérangeants.
share today are,
Voici ce que je peux vous dire.
are terrible.
Vers 22h52 hier, le service
Around
de police d'Ottawa
22:50
reçut 2 appels
p.m.
au 911
The
des
service
environs de
in
la
Ottawa
rivière
received
Barrhaven
2
et
calls
signalant un incident suspect ou
indicating
un
a
homme criait à
suspect
l'aide, demandant aux gens
incident.
de faire le 911. Des agents furent immédiatement dépêchés sur le lieu
Agents were sent
et le premier agent
on the
arriva
premises,
sur place
and the
quelques
first
minutes après.
agent on
Alors
site
que plusieurs
arrived on
policiers
site a few
arrivent,
minutes after
les
that.
agents purent identifier un suspect qui fut
The
vite arrêté
suspect was identified
sans incident.
and
Les
was
ambulanciers
arrested without incident.
paramédicaux avaient aussi été
Paramedical
appelés et arrivèrent
teams
bientôt.
Arrived shortly after.
Des agents entrèrent dans ce demeure pour vérifier si
Agents
ceux qui
entered
se
the
trouvaient à
home
l'intérieur étaient en sûreté. C'est
and to
alors
make sure
qu'ils
that people
commencèrent à
inside were
découvrir les
in
6
safety, and they
victimes,
discovered.
dont la plus jeune était
what
âgée
had
de moins
happened.
de 3 mois.
And the youngest
Nous
victim
afférons
was
à viser
less
les
than 3
familles
months
des
old.
défunts, dont plusieurs se
tried-
trouveraient outre-mer.
We
Un homme, le
contacted
père et le mari des victimes,
the
fut
families
trouvé
of
sur
the
les lieux,
deceased,
blessé.
some of them being
Il fut transporté à l'hôpital
abroad.
où il repose dans un
The
état
father
grave
was
mais stable.
injured and was
Les
transported to the
victimes
hospital.
sont
The victims are
Darshani Banbaraniaki et Kananiaki, âgés de 35 ans.
35
Celle-ci
years
est la
old.
mère des enfants.
She's the mother
Leur
of the
fils,
children.
Inuka
Their son,
Witamashi,
Inuka
âgé de 7 ans.
Witamashi,
Leur
7 years old.
Ashniwini,
Their daughter,
âgée de 4 ans.
Ashtemuni,
Leur
4
fille
years old.
Rinyana,
Their daughter,
âgée de 2 ans.
Eminyana, 2
Et
years
leur
old.
fille Kelly, âgée
And
de 2
Kelly,
mois et demi.
their daughter, less than 3 months
Aussi
old.
trouvé mort à Maracone,
Also found
Gamini
death,
à Maracone, âgé de
dead,
40 ans,
Gamini
une
Amanaki,
connaissance de la famille qui
40
habitait
years
avec
old.
eux. Il
Some-
était récemment arrivé au Canada.
who was
L'enquête
living
a
with them.
permis
He
d'établir une
had
arme
recently
tranchante
arrived in
fut
Canada.
employée pour causer les morts et blessures.
There was a
La
blunt
famille,
object,
originaire du Sri Lanka, était
a
récemment
cutting
arrivée au
object that
Canada.
was used to
2 des
commit
enfants
the crime.
fréquentaient des
2 of the
écoles
children
locales. Nous avons
were
pris contact avec le
registered
conseil
in
scolaire.
local schools.
Nous avons
We
arrêté
contacted
un homme
the
âgé de
school
19 ans,
council.
donc
We
February
arrested
D'Souza,
a
et
19-year-old
l'avons
man,
inculpé de
D'Souza,
6 chefs de
and
meurtre au premier
who is
degré
accused of
et d'un chef de
6
tentative de
murders
meurtre.
and 1
L'accusé
attempted
est un
murder.
ressortissant sri-lankais
He
qui
is
serait au Canada
of
comme
Sri Lankan
étudiant.
nationality who is
Nous savons
in
qu'il y a de
Canada
nombreuses
at the
questions quant aux raisons de cette
We have
tragédie.
several
C'est
questions with
là-dessus que se
regards to the
concentre
reason of this
notre unité
tragedy.
des homicides,
And
alors
our
qu'elle enquête
homicide unit
assidûment sur ce
is
crime
working on this
insensé
to
afin d'établir la preuve dans
understand
cette
this
affaire.
incredible
Nos
crime
équipes
to make
d'enquêteurs
light on
et
this
d'identité
matter.
judiciaire travaillent
And
arrache-pied à éclaircir
a
tous les
judicial
faits pour
police
garantir
is working
qu'une justice
very
soit
hard
faite.
to
Mais
guarantee
cela signifie également
prompt
que nous
justice.
devons
That
protéger
this means also
l'intégrité
that we
de
have
l'enquête
to
pour les
protect
tribunaux.
the integrity of the
C'est clair.
investigation.
Il s'agit d'un
It's
acte
clear.
de violence
This
insensé
is
perpétré
incredible
contre des
act
gens
of violence.
simplement innocents.
Uh,
Je sais que
and the
notre
victims
entière
are
collectivité
innocent.
est bouleversée et
Our
éplorée
community
par ces
is
événements.
upset
Après
by
cette
this
perte
terrible event,
inimaginable, je tiens à exprimer mes
this
sincères
incredible
condoléances
loss of
aux
life
proches de toutes les victimes.
is
Nous
makes
proposons
no
des
sense, and
ressources
I
de
want
soutien
to present my
et
condolences
nous
to the
savons
family
que la
of the
collectivité
victims.
se mobilise.
We know that the
Je
community
tiens aussi
will
à
be there.
reconnaître la douleur ressentie dans la communauté,
I know the pain
tant ici
felt
à
by the
Ottawa qu'à
community
l'étranger.
here in Ottawa
Des ressources de
and
soutien à
abroad.
l'intention des victimes et de
Support
la communauté
resources
ont été
for
mises
the
en place
victims and the
dans le
community
quartier
are
et les
put in
écoles
place
afin de
in the
réconforter
neighborhood
la
and the school.
collectivité en cette période éprouvante.
to support the
Nous prions
community.
quiconque ayant besoin d'un tel appui de s'adresser au
People
centre
who would
de
need
détresse,
such
un
support,
service 24 heures sur
please
24
call
en composant le 614
center
238 3311.
at the
Cette
number
tragédie pèsera
given.
dans
This tragedy
sans doute fort longtemps sur le
will
cœur
impact
en chacun d'entre nous.
our
Pour
hearts.
souvenir des victimes, une vigile a été établie
Their
au
vigil
parc
will be
Palmadeo,
organized
au coin des promenades Palmadeo et Rodeo.
at the
Nous
corner
prions aux
of
gens
Tamadeo and
d'éviter les
Rodeo.
environs des lieux du crime, tandis qu'il se
And
poursuit
the premises
l'enquête policière.
are
Je suis aussi
are
consciente que
guarded and the investigation is
que cette
continuing.
affaire pourrait avoir sur nos membres et d'autres intervenants
This
d'urgence.
investigation could have some impact also on the community and the people participating in the investigation. I can answer your questions now.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. We will now have some comments from Mayor Mark Sutcliffe. Mayor, the floor is yours.
This morning, the residents of our wonderful city woke up to the news of a shocking and devastating event in the beautiful and peaceful community of Barrhaven. Cette nouvelle a choqué de nombreux résidents de la ville d'Ottawa et bien sûr, elle est particulièrement troublante pour les voisins et tous ceux qui vivent à
impacted
Barrhaven.
the neighbors and
This news has
everybody
shaken
living
many residents
in the
throughout
neighborhood.
Ottawa. And of course, it's particularly troubling to neighbors and anyone living in Barrhaven. And I know I speak for my colleagues, Wilson Lowe and David Hill, who are here today, when I say that Barrhaven is a wonderful and rapidly growing community filled with warm and welcoming families and neighbors. So it's hard to believe that something like this could happen there or anywhere else in our city. Il est particulièrement troublant pour moi, en tant que parent, d'entendre parler de la perte de quatre enfants très jeunes. It is particularly troubling for me as a parent to hear of the loss of 4 children of very young ages. It is very difficult to think about, very difficult to process. Just yesterday, I met a group of students from Barrhaven, from very close to where this event took place. They came to sing the national anthem before our city council meeting yesterday at City Hall, and it was wonderful to see their bright faces. So it's devastating and heartbreaking to think that only a few minutes away from their school last night, 4 children and 2 adults were killed. Comme le chef Stubbs l'a confirmé, je tiens à assurer aux résidents d'Ottawa qu'il n'y a pas de menace pour la sécurité publique.
That there is no place for
I want to assure the
insecurity.
residents of Ottawa that there is no broader threat to public safety. And I want to personally thank the chief, the deputy chief, the police service, and all the emergency personnel who responded to this event and have been supporting those affected by it. I can only imagine how difficult it is to witness such a terrible tragedy, and our emergency personnel deserve our support and gratitude for their work during the last 12 to 14 hours. While it will be difficult for many of us to go about our usual routines in the face of such tragedy, again, there is no risk to the public. We are fortunate to live in a safe city where these events are extremely rare. But everyone, understandably, will react to this news today and feel less safe and secure. To the family and neighbors and friends of those immediately affected by this tragedy, I want you to know that the entire city of Ottawa stands with you. And our thoughts and our prayers extend to each and every one of you during this extremely difficult time. There are resources available to anyone who needs help. Aux familles, voisins et amis
To families, neighbors
touchés par cette tragédie,
impacted by this tragedy,
je veux que vous sachiez
I
que
want
toute la
you to
ville
know that
d'Ottawa
the
est
entire
à
city
vos
of
côtés
Ottawa
et que
is with you,
nos pensées et nos
and
prières
our thoughts and our
s'adressent à
prayer
chacun d'entre
are
vous en cette période
go to each one of you
difficile.
during
Throughout
this
our large
incredibly
but
difficult
very tightly
period.
knit community, People will be affected by this. They will be shaken by this. And in the face of this grief and sadness and sorrow, let's pull together as a community. Let's reach out to each other. Let's check in on each other, and let's support each other. It is in times of tragedy that we often see the very best in people, and I know that will be true in Barrhaven and throughout Ottawa in the hours and days ahead. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mayor. We will now open the floor to some questions. Due to the amount of people inside today, I will be passing around a microphone, and I will ask that you ask only one question. Vous pouvez poser uniquement une question. When you have the microphone, please identify yourself and your news agency. On va commencer. We will start with Jillian Piper with Global News.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Jillian Piper, Global News. To confirm, you said it was an edged weapon. Can you tell me any more about the weapon, when you found it, what it was?
We won't talk much about the weapon. An edged weapon is, you know what that means. That's a knife-like object, and that's what was used.
And you can confirm that was for all the victims?
Yes.
Including the one that was injured, not dead?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have a follow-up?
Sorry. We'll now move on to Dave Charbonneau with CTV News. No question. CBC. Perfect.
Hi, Chief. My question is about the suspect and his connection to the victims. Was the suspect known to the victims? What is the connection? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we did mention that the suspect is an acquaintance of the family and was living in the house at the time.
I was hoping you could tell me anything further than that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's something that our homicide team is looking into in terms of digging deeper into that relationship, but that is what we're prepared to talk about right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City News. Anyone from City News? No. Post Media. Citizen.
Hi, Marla Glass with The Citizen. The suspect, is he connected to any other crimes or known to police in any way?
I can say that we have never dealt with that suspect in Canada before, nor with that family or that residence.
Certainly. And Mike, if you'll let me, you mentioned that there is the man who was in the street, yelling, and that was why people called 911. That was the 19-year-old, right? There wasn't another person involved?
I'm not saying that was the 19-year-old, no.
Okay.
That's not accurate.
Félix Pilon or David Bates with La Cité. Do you have a question? Est-ce que vous avez une question? No. Lise avec Le Devoir.
Vous avez dit que le suspect était relié à la famille en anglais. Est-ce que vous pouvez juste clarifier parce que j'avais compris que c'est la personne qui était reliée à la famille, une connaissance de la famille et vivait avec eux. Sur la personne qui criait dans la rue, est-ce qu'on comprend que c'est le père qui a appelé le 911?
Yelling in the street was the father calling for help.
Alors, le personne qui était âgée à Maracoon, 40 ans, c'était le même monsieur que le suspect de 19 ans. Alors, le suspect,
the same suspect as the 19-year-old. There was
qui était dans
another adult
qui restait là aussi.
with the family that was living there too.
Oui.
Nikki with Canadian Press.
Right here. Can you confirm, or I guess can you say who the man was calling for help? Was it the father, and did he come home to discover his family dead?
I won't talk about the sequence of events that occurred there. That we still have to investigate that and determine that. Yeah, but the male in the street was the father, the husband. Yes.
Judy Trin, CTV News.
Thank you. Can you give us a little more information? You said that the 19-year-old international student lived there. Was he subletting, and as well as there was a 40-year-old friend? Was that individual also living there and subletting with this family?
Yeah. As we understand who was living in the house, as we described, we still have a lot of work to do to really understand exactly everybody's situation, why they were there, and their backgrounds and whatnot. As we said, we're 12, 14 hours into this investigation, so that's some work that we need to continue with.
Do you have a sense of how long the family has been in Canada? You said they were newcomers.
Yeah, I do know that I think, as often occurs, some come first and then others follow. And of course, we have a 2.5-month-old that is deceased and born in Canada. So I think there was different times throughout the recent years that they've come into Canada.
Charles-Antoine avec le droit.
Bonjour, j'aimerais savoir, est-ce que c'est le plus gros mass murder à Ottawa jamais que la ville a jamais connu?
That the city has ever known.
Vous pouvez répondre dans les deux langues.
Oui, dans les années récentes, oui. Mais
Yes,
on peut
in
pas
recent
dire
years,
comme,
yes.
Depuis jamais. Mais nous avions pensé que c'est... Oui,
We
c'est un-
cannot say it was ever the case, but we in the recent years, yes.
Is this the largest murder in Ottawa's history? And it certainly is. In recent memory, and we have some people that have worked in Ottawa here for over 30 years, and in that time period, they haven't seen one as significant as this.
Frédéric Pépin avec Radio-Can.
Monsieur le maire, d'abord. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous pensez qui pourrait être fait prochainement par votre équipe,
What do you
par
think
le conseil
that your team
municipal,
could do?
par la sécurité communautaire?
Security
c'est un grand choc, là. Donc, qu'est-ce qui pourrait
for
être fait?
to
Tout d'abord,
reinforce
c'est
community
très important
security.
de
First of
soutenir
all, it is
la
important
famille
to
des
support
victimes et les voisins, les amis, la
family
communauté de
of the victim,
Barrhaven.
the neighbors
Alors,
of
nous
Barrhaven
sommes ici, il y a des
community.
ressources disponibles pour
We're here, there are
soutenir
resources available to
toutes
support
les personnes affectées par
all the people affected
cet événement
by
tragique.
this
Et
tragic
après
event.
ça, on
And
verra s'il y a
thereafter,
des
we'll
décisions à
see
prendre.
if there are
Je ne
decisions
sais pas
to be
encore
taken.
parce que
I don't know yet.
c'est trop tôt.
It's too early to say.
Étienne Malouin avec TVA.
Etienne Malouin with TV1.
Bonjour. Juste pour comprendre,
Like
le
to
jeune de
understand
19 ans,
better.
vous mentionnez qu'il visiblement était au
19-year-old
pays pour les études. Depuis
who
combien
was
de temps il
in the
était
country
à Ottawa?
to study.
Je ne sais
How
pas
long
ça,
has he been to Ottawa
des détails
when this
exacts,
occurred?
mais récemment.
I don't have the exact details.
Et
But he
Monsieur
arrived
Sudley, vous avez mentionné
Mr.
ce matin
Sudley,
sur,
you mentioned this
sur les
morning
réseaux sociaux que c'était un des
on
crimes
social
événements les
network
plus épouvantables de violence
that it was one of the
de
most
l'histoire
terrible
de la
events
ville d'Ottawa. Peut-être
of the
développer un peu là-dessus à quel point
history of Ottawa.
cet événement-là,
Could you
ça
do-
marque l'imaginaire et on ne pense pas que ce type
So
d'événement-là
this
peut
is
se
really
produire à Ottawa.
impactful. It was
Non, c'est
very
nous
hard.
sommes chanceux que Ottawa
We're
est une ville très
lucky.
sécuritaire. Alors,
Ottawa is a very
vraiment
safe
rare
city.
et c'est
And this
pourquoi
is, such events are so rare,
vraiment choquant
and it's very shocking.
Et moi, j'étais dévasté d'entendre ces
I was
nouvelles
devastated
ce matin.
to hear this
Ce n'est pas
news
quelque
this
chose
morning.
que nous
This is not
pensons
something
à des événements comme ça à Ottawa.
we never think about, that these
vraiment
events
rare. Alors,
will happen in Ottawa.
Je suis
It's very rare,
Je
so
suis dévasté et
I'm devastated
en tant que
as a
père,
parent,
c'est
a
vraiment
father.
difficile pour moi d'entendre
It's very
les
difficult
âges des
to hear
enfants. Ils sont
the age of
très
the
jeunes
children.
et
So such young
difficile
children,
à comprendre.
it's difficult to understand.
Is there someone from Global News? The question? Sorry, just mind saying your name.
Sure. Jillian Piper, Global News. What is?
Sorry, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll take it.
No.
What's the condition of the person in hospital?
I missed your question.
What's the condition of the person in
okay.
hospital?
Yeah, the male in hospital is in serious but stable condition.
Globe and Mail, Olivia Barrett. No question. Yannick Saint-Denis, 104.7. No question. Maïssa Ferrat, La Presse Montréal.
Merci. Le suspect de 19 ans, est-ce qu'on a une indication d'un dossier médical, un historique de
Does he have a
troubles mentaux?
medical file somewhere?
Non, on n'a pas de dossier.
No,
Merci.
we don't have a file.
Is there somebody that I did not get to?
Isabel Harder, New York Times. Can I ask why the police are not calling this a domestic incident if it was perpetrated by people living in the same dwelling?
Generally, when we talk about intimate partner violence, that is the
Incredibly
parameters that we
shocking
use
update from
in that
Ottawa
regard.
police this hour after
we're
4
not,
young children
we're
and
trying to
2 adults were killed in an Ottawa suburb. The details are disturbing. Officers received reports of a male yelling outside of a home in Barrhaven last night, telling people to call 911. Officers then entered the home, and that is where they found the victims. One of the victims, less than 3 months old, so a baby. The other victims include a 7-year-old boy, a 4-year-old girl, a 2-year-old girl, and a 35-year-old woman, the mother of the children, and a 40-year-old family friend. The victims, we're learning, were new to Canada, the family from Sri Lanka. The father and husband was found injured. He is now in hospital. We can tell you an edged weapon was located on scene. Officers have arrested and charged a 19-year-old man, a Sri Lankan national, an international student who was an acquaintance of the family and living with the family as well. He is the only suspect in this case. Police say the killed completely innocent people. They say they have several questions about the motive behind this horrific crime, so that has yet to be determined, and police are calling this an incredible loss of life. Our CTV cameras and crews are on scene, and they'll continue to provide extensive coverage.